we have Vayu Naidu. She is a performance storyteller, founder, artistic director, and storyteller of the Vayu Naidu Intercultural Storytelling Theatre Company, which is based in London.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. And she has a PhD in epic and oral traditions of Ramayana and Mahabharata from the University of Leeds. And she writes short stories, novels, children's books, radio plays, drawing on oral traditions of storytelling. And her novels have been nominated. Sita's Ascent was nominated for the Commonwealth Book Award. The Sari of Surya Vilas in 2017, and The Living Legend, Ramayana Tales from Far and Near was published in 2024. So Vayu is going to tell us stories from the epics.
Everywhere.
From everywhere.
Thank you. Thank you.
Enjoy, and thank you in advance. Oh, you don't need, yeah.
Can you all hear me clearly? Yeah, right at the back? Yes? You can hear? Volume more? Me more? Okay. Just a test. Uma, thank you so much. And also to everyone at Hyderabad Literary Festival. It's a literary festival. It's not just a literature festival. That is why you've had such a wonderful combination of so many streams, exciting panelists, discussing not just their books and work, but what was the intention and the motive of what they are writing about. When we have domestic quarrels, we'll say, what is this Ramayanam going on? Isn't it? And a lot of the relationship with the characters in families, we tend to understand through our epics. So when I was asked by the curator, look, our keynote person hasn't come, can you do something? So this wonderful Englishman said, why don't you just tell them the story? And 1 year later, that man became my husband. And we have done many Ramayanas together, for concerts and performances. So I'm very pleased to say yesterday when I was asked the question, what is the impact of an epic in your life? It is what I learn, speak, and breathe. And in later years, I've also discovered that sometimes I really see Hanuman in the audience. And when Hanuman is listening, then it's a great compliment. So I'm going to share with you just a few sections of Ramayana, but I want to share with you this whole idea of listening to an epic story. I won't give you the entire epic. I will give you something as a cross-section of how wonderful our mythological imagination of us as Indians is, but also it is how it can take on any language. It can be told, in fact, one of the things that came up in my PhD is, can the Indian tales be told in English? So that time I was working on rasas, and I said, all human beings have love, hate, fear, anger, jealousy. So if you take those rasas and you transpose it into another language, and my challenge was to tell stories in English to audiences who had no idea where these epics come from. So I hope you will share with me the enticement of stories and how they get told. And it's okay if you go to sleep because it's hot. And the lovely thing about our Indic storytelling is you can sleep, you can dream, you can wake up. And I'm going to share with you a lovely folk tale of how the impact of transformation of the Ramayana took place. So imagine we are in this village, and there was quite a bright woman, village woman, but for some strange reason, and it happens to very intelligent women, she fell in love with an absolute idiot. Now that fellow, I don't know what attracted her, but he was wearing fancy t-shirts of the latest Tamil Param, and he would have a cycle, so she thought, you know, this is really modern, and she got married to him. Now, the lovely thing about attraction is it wears off. And she thought, oh my goodness, I must hold the marriage together because everybody is watching. This was my choice. And big storyteller was coming, Deepavali time. Storytelling was going to happen in the temple. So she said to him, look, please, I can't go out of the house. It's that time of the month. Now, why don't you go for the storytelling performance? So he said, what? Why should I listen to other people's stories? I've got so many things to think about, basically listening and watching videos on the television those days. And she said, look, you have to go because our whole reputation is at stake about how cultured we are. He couldn't understand what this word culture was. So that day she quickly cooked him some delicious pongal with lots of homemade ghee, wonderful cashew nuts, lovely peppercorns, nice badam kesri she made for him, delicious chutneys all around, laid it, and she served him personally. She even presented him a wonderful pair of leather shoes. He was very thrilled. She gave him one talapa. He was even more thrilled. New dhoti with a gold border, even more thrilled. So she said, what is the point of you wearing it at home? Go to the temple, sit and listen to the storytelling performance. Everybody can see you modeling it. He was thrilled. He waxed his whiskers and off he went to the temple. Storyteller comes in at about 9 at night. So first there weren't too many people. Then everybody was saying Jargu, Jargu, and they were sort of packing around the storyteller. Now the storyteller started. And it started with the Ashwamedha and how Dashratha was there with the wonderful fire sacrifice, the 3 wives on each side. And the storyteller's voice was so melodious. The pongal was in the stomach. The ghee was swimming. The badam kesri was still the flavor on the tongue. His talapa was too heavy. His toppe was growing big. And his shoes were hurting him a bit. So he just put it to the side and he slumped into a sleep. Nobody knew how that night went through with that wonderful storytelling the storyteller told. And our friend the idiot got up in the morning, because all our storytelling used to end in the morning with the sunlight coming up, so we'd be enlightened hopefully. And he got up, nobody was around, and he went home. So his wife was waiting with a lovely stainless steel tumbler of hot piping coffee, frothing, nice fresh vade she had made him. And he was coming back and the neighbors was discussing, wasn't that storyteller amazing? We must get him for next year. He started off with the Ashwamedha and how, Kaikai looked at Dashratha, but Dashratha gave 2 additional spoonfuls of the payasam to his other wife, and how wonderfully the children were born, 4 sons, Rama, Lakshmana, all this, how beautifully Dashratha taught his 4 sons about the geometry of space, the poetry of language, the wonderful oratory. And the wife was listening and she thought her husband has also heard this, and she said to him, well, what did you think of that wonderful storytelling of the Ramayana? And the neighbors were seeing, what is this fellow going to say? So he said, oh yeah, it was very nice. And one of the neighbors said, how nice of that Brahmin priest, he put a laddu in all our mouths. So quickly the idiot said, yes, that part of the story was very sweet. So the wife was so thrilled. Everybody calls him an idiot, but he understands the Ramayana, the first part is so sweet. Next day she prepared him even more nice, delicious items, laid it on the simmering, the steaming thing from the banana leaf. He ate nicely. This time she gave him a gold necklace also. And she said, I'm still in that time of the month, I can't come with you. Please go and tell me what you think of tonight's performance of Ramayana. Danga, 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 he went off. Now the crowds were hearing from neighboring villages. So they were coming in ramshackle buses, bullock carts, and lots of little kiosks were being set up. And the crowds were really, gathering. Now little children had also come. And they were so attentive because they knew this middle part of the story may be exciting, there may be some fights and things like that. So here was our friend sitting right in front, and the lovely food he had eaten was taking effect. He was again feeling very drowsy, and he started dozing off on his big belly. In the middle of the performance, one little boy, he couldn't see very clearly. So he jumped on the man's shoulders and he watched open-mouthed the whole performance, right from the time it started to the time when the sun began to rise. Crowds dispersed and our friend the idiot woke up. Anyway, he hurried, thinking, what is this wife of mine always fussing about this? I don't even know what the name of the story is. I have to come every evening. Anyway, she prepares me a very good meal. I get gold necklace, I get talapa, dhoti, all this, so I'll come. So he went home. Sure enough, other neighbors were at the gate with their coffee. Now she was making vada and idli for them also, waiting to show them that her husband was so cultured, they had got him wrong. They thought he was an idiot, and now today he can also appreciate the last night's Ramayana. So they were talking amongst themselves, saying, oh my goodness, wasn't it heart-rending when Mantra put those things into Kaikai's ears? How she got transformed. She was so happy about Rama's coronation. The other neighbor said, I know she was creating a whole opera for Rama's coronation. Mantra twisted her mind, but it's true, there was something about it that we couldn't trust the whole story of Kaikai's father. And then the heartbreaking moment when Dashratha had to say to Rama, not even in his own words, but directed Kaikai to say, you have to go into exile. Our friend came, his shoulders were aching so badly, because remember what happened? Quite heavy, 12-year-old. So he said, so they all asked him, what did you think of the Ramayana? He said, Appa, it was too heavy. So what a wonder this man is. He understands these things, nuanced storytelling. He understood how heavy it was that Dashratha's heart almost broke, and how difficult it was for Rama to go on exile. Not so much for Rama, but for his brother Bharata. This fellow is a genius. The wife was thrilled. Now she bought her husband a big safe, so that each month she'd give him something in gold coins and he could lock it up. He was mighty thrilled. She cooked him a wonderful meal, and then she said, I have finished that time of my month, and I can join you tomorrow. So he was thinking, oh my God, I better sit up today. I better at least focus on something. I don't know, one day it's sweet, one day it's heavy. I don't know what's going to happen today. So he went to temple courtyard, even more truckloads, even more bullock cart loads, even jatka bandis were coming, horses from different parts of India now to listen to this amazing storyteller. One storyteller, no musical accompaniment, nothing. Storyteller began. Our friend went to sleep, but now he managed to wriggle his way, and somehow people pushed past him. They were sitting in front, he had been pushed at the back, and he was lying flat at the back. What a wonderful sleep he had, eh? Storytelling in his ears, nice hot food in his stomach, a gift of a whole safe that he'd be getting, a private monthly pension from his wife. Such happiness. But he slept with his mouth open, snoring away, but nobody could hear it because they were absolutely consumed by the storyteller. People gathered once the sun rose and they moved away. His mouth was open. A dog came by and it peed into his mouth. The man woke up. Gee, what was that? Rubbish. So he went home. There now his wife had made other little sweets and snacks for the neighbors. More neighbors had gathered, and now they were saying, my goodness, how Rama sent his envoys, and all those two monkeys were catapulted back, and Hanuman was there as the chief minister, and there Sita had said to Hanuman, even though you have seen me, I will not come back with you. It is Rama who must come and fight this battle of justice. And everybody was, absolutely in awe of the story and the way the storyteller had told it. So our friend was coming, making all faces because his jaw was hurting, his mouth was open, something had happened to it. So he came in through the wicket gate, his shoes squeaking away, and his wife very triumphantly said, and so, what did you make of the story today? And he said, it was so bitter. Everybody started laughing because they had seen what had happened. The dog weed in his mouth, and they knew what was happening, and they confirmed he's a total idiot. Why is this woman wasting her time? She was so humiliated. She dragged him by his ear. She sat him down. No food for you today. I'll take all my gifts back. I'm going to come to you with you to the performance and watch what on earth are you listening to. What is this? One day sweet, one day heavy, one day bitter. What is going on? Have you been listening to anything? What was the story? Name of the story you listened to? He was totally shamefaced. Oh, I don't know. I just can't take it in. I'm just used to watching what I want. So that evening, she put at least 5 rows of jasmines and kanakambrams in her hair, wore her flashing diamond earrings, 2 big diamond studs like the sun on her nose, big bindi and bottu, all her gold chains, nice silk sari, went with her husband, entered the temple. And everybody sat down. The story started, and this was the part when Rama called Hanuman, and he said, Hanuman, I do not know how I'm going to find Sita, but I trust you as my friend. So Hanuman said, how will she know I have come from you? So Rama took his ring, and on that ring was a little poem that Sita had inscribed. And Rama said, only she will know that this is only from me. You take this ring and go and seek her. Now Hanuman had this incredible quality from his father Vayu, by which he could become as small as the tiniest little insect and could burrow into the earth or go into the oceans. He could take one breath and he could become larger than the universe, and he could circulate throughout the constellation. That was a special gift. So he wanted to use that special gift to be able to seek Sita wherever she had been taken away by Ravana. So Hanuman also was very pleased. Rama has chosen him, though he was a very wise chief minister and everything. So Rama and Hanuman embraced each other. Hanuman took the ring and he thought, where should I begin? Let me stand at the edge and let me dive into the ocean. Then he thought, no, if I just dive into the ocean, where will I go? Let me fly through the air. So he was flying through the air, and as he could see, he held the ring in his mouth. And he saw the little tip of the northern part of Lanka. And he was at that moment, as he was flying free in the air, he was thinking to himself, I am so fortunate. While I am grateful, I am also so privileged that Rama has given me the ring to take to Sita. At that moment, that slight flicker of ego came in, the ring dropped from his mouth. And he said, oh, look at my ego, what it is. And so he dived into the ocean. Now here was the wife, here was the idiot sitting. And he was listening. And he watched that ring spinning from Hanuman's mouth. And he could hear Hanuman saying, oh, I've lost the ring. How will I ever find Sita? And so our friend the idiot dived into the ocean and he picked out a ring and he gave it to Hanuman, who stood in front of him. That is how people get transformed when they listen to the great epic. Thank you. Are you okay with that? Did you want a big war scene and things? I thought I'll give you, it's such a fabulous folk tale where you have the structure of the entire epic and it's got these lovely breaks, and I've taken the liberty to punctuate it with my own humor, and I thank you for indulging me and listening. But truly, truly, if we transform our way of listening and reading, you will enter these realms of these epics, and something in you will start unfolding like a lotus. That is its beauty. And that beauty you will take away with you, and you will share. Okay? So I'm so happy this beautiful child is fast asleep. It's so beautiful to see, it's the sleep of peace and innocence. Gorgeous. So now I just want to take you from an Indian epic to an Egyptian one. It's part of an epic. Are you okay with that if we travel? It's nice. It's nice to go to a lovely other continent. When we think of Africa, sometimes we just say, oh, that's from Africa. And this attitude is that Africa is a country. No, it's a vast continent. So many countries. And some part is English and those African languages. Some part are colonized by the French. Some have Portuguese. Some have Italian. But and then of course, you've got this whole idea, is when does Africa become Arabic, So I'm going to take you to a part which is pharaonic, pre-pharaonic. And I want to take you to, I love this myth because again, I always had this belief that when I started telling stories from around the world, the stories would call me to those places. It was just a fantasy, I can't afford to travel all over the world. So I happened to tell this story because for me it is such a beautiful story about why we remember and why it is important to remember. And I could find a sense in the English word, and I'll unravel it to you later. And suddenly I got a call one day from a very, very wonderful person in her own right, but also a good childhood friend. And she said, Vayu, I'm celebrating my 30th wedding anniversary. I said, how nice. Are you going to Scotland or something? She said, no, I'm going to Egypt. I said, that's very nice. And I'd like you to be the storyteller, she said. I said, wow. So we went on this beautiful cruise with all her family and on the deck. And it was just magical seeing that Egyptian sunset. And in this story, all those little elements, because I used to tell them, and then to be invited to that country. So stories have a way of calling you, okay? I used to love Hyderabadi biryani and used to tell stories about it, so I'm back again, okay? This story, so Osiris is the sun. He is a god. But he's also got a form of a human man. And they say wherever Osiris went, along the lands of Africa, everybody hooted and cheered. Everybody was happy because even though it is hot, somehow he brought light into their heart. And when he would come and visit the lands and the peasants along the farms or the dry lands that had to be tilled, he would bend to the peasant in the hut and greet them. Now, Osiris also had a half-brother called Seth. Now, Seth had really orange kind of hair, and he was very disgruntled, very jealous, especially of Osiris's capability of being loved by all the people throughout the land. So one day Seth thought, rather than me being eaten up by my jealousy, let me get rid of Osiris. So what he did is he invited Osiris to a wonderful banquet. But meanwhile, he had spoken to his excellent craftspeople to create an amazing box. It was a chest, and it was filigreed with lovely silver stories all along that box, a gleaming silver. And slowly, as the dancing girls, the wine, the monkey through the fire hoop, all the entertainments were there in front of Osiris, he was getting a little happily drunk. And he was clapping his hands, he was singing, and suddenly Seth said, now the time has come for the happiest riddle we can solve. And so the chest was brought in by the other slaves, it was opened, and the challenge was anyone who could fit in that chest would be deemed a god. So, naturally, fat people came, they tried, it was too tight, they had to be wrenched out. Thin people came, the chest was too loose, they had to be shaken out. She realized that this coffin in which Osiris's body was had floated towards the Nile, toward this pink, flowing tamarisk tree, and had got entwined in the bark. Just as she was thinking how she could get the coffin with Osiris's body, suddenly the king and the queen of that land decided to cut that tree and use the central bark as the pillar to the palace. So quickly, Isis got herself a job as a handmaiden in the queen's chamber. Now the queen had many children, and there was one little infant who used to have terrible dreams and keep screaming in the night. So the queen said to the disguised Isis, "Can you calm this child?" And so Isis took the infant. And every night, Isis would transform herself into a lark. She would take this child, place it in a holy fire, and as a lark, sing around it, and the child would be calmed. And in daylight, the child would be smiling. Now the queen was thrilled. She said, "I have a magical kind of handmaiden who has helped us, and this child is so calm and happy." But of course, curiosity. And the queen decided to watch that night how Isis put the child to sleep. So as she was peeping, she saw Isis singing, then removing her veils and transforming herself into a lark. And singing as a lark, she took the sleeping infant and was just going to place it in the sacred fire when the queen screamed. And it was an earth-shattering scream. Even the king came out, the guards, everyone. And the queen said, "How could you burn my child?" And Isis now came into her full form. She said, "You are intervening in the way we gods work. I was calming your child from all its previous births and lives. But now I want one thing from all of you. If you don't give it to me, I shall curse this entire kingdom." So the king, he was trembling. He said, "Ask for anything you want." And she said, "In the central pillar to your palace hall is a cask, a coffin, and in it lies my husband. I want it." So at the effect of almost the whole palace coming down, the pillar was opened, the coffin was brought out, and when she opened it, she saw her beloved Osiris. She took the coffin with her and sailed it along the Nile. Now, It was the hunting season. And the coffin was hiding among the papyrus. A full moon during the hunting season, and Seth was out rowing. He saw something gleaming in the waving papyrus, and immediately he recognized it was the coffin. Isis had just kept it there for a while till she could come and do the final rites. So she had disappeared, and there was Set. He opened the box, he took out Osiris's body, and he said, "You have really been the curse of my existence. Even while you lived, they loved you, and even while you're dead, they love you more." So he dismembered Osiris, and he flung many pieces of his body in 40 places along that part of the land. Isis came 2 mornings later, and she saw the coffin was empty. So slowly she began to gather parts of Osiris. And having gathered it in full, she flew over him in the form of a lark. And she conceived their first child, Horus, the falcon god. And then, when she had put all the parts of his body together, which is remembering the dismembered parts, she cleaved open the earth and she lay him to rest amidst the waving papyrus. She needn't have done it, but she knew if we don't remember our pasts, how can we be full as humans, as people, as a community, and as a civilization? Thank you. I hope you found that not depressing, but it is a beautiful Egyptian tale. It goes very closely to some of our Vishnu myths of Sati and so on. So I wanted to share with you how the world exists with parallel things. We have beautiful myths, but it's wonderful to enter the windows of other civilizations and cultures who may do things differently, but no doubt we share an experience. Okay? I was told by our excellent curator that I can open things out to question and answers. Is that okay? So feel free to ask questions. I can either come down or stay up, whatever you prefer. Maybe I'll come down. Oh, this was why I went up. Okay. Yes, please. Have the mic. Oh, it's me. Yes, stay there.
So the interesting part is that I'm from the University of Hyderabad too,
Right.
but that's not the question. The question really is, as a storyteller, when you were telling us about the Ramayana and the transformative power, you were localizing it and telling us about the vadai and the payasam and so on and so forth. So do you change details of a story according to the audience, or you tell the story from a locus standi of where you are seeing it and allow them to interpret it in their own way? How do you do this?
That's a lovely question. It's actually a combination of both. There was a wonderful, there are 2 things I'll just share with you. The wonderful thing about the Indian oral tradition, why it has lasted so long, and indeed African oral tradition, is that we've always had the storytellers interpolate. So they have a sense of the zeitgeist, they're also traveling, and you have to make it contextual to the village or town you're going to. That's what those Ramayana storytellers used to do. And I love that ability to make something fresh. Another thing I learned, I went to a wonderful, I work a lot with brilliant musicians and orchestras, but if you ask me to sing, it would be hopeless. Again, another gift for idiots. I went to a wonderful workshop of a jazz musician called Wynton Marsalis. And he really, makes this thing. I've worked a lot with jazz musicians as well. And he always says, it's like jazz, storytelling. And he says jazz is like storytelling, and I think storytelling is like jazz. You have what Chunilal Mishra calls Bina Patrika, the unwritten story. So as I'm standing there, I'm composing it for you. वो बिना पत्रिका है. But I'm also giving some kind of color and reference to what makes it familiar for you, because it's not about me. I want you to enter that landscape, and that's what we do. It's a continual process of composition. So when somebody says, oh, have you written a script, have you memorized this? No, this is not memory, because I have to take in the traffic, I have to take in something screaming outside, I may bring it in. So we are on, as a storyteller, I'm with you, I'm 10 seconds ahead of you, and I'm in a village, and I'm with the Ramayana, and I'm telling it to you. Yeah.
Yeah.
As you said that you are like you have worked your life as a storyteller, right? So I work as a multimedia artist and I love to tell stories. I haven't worked on like bigger platforms. I just work on like college clubs and my social circle and stuff like that. And I wanted my question to you is that what advice would you give to someone who wants to live a life as a storyteller?
A big bank balance would help. I didn't have one, but be faithful to what you're doing. And also because you're in multimedia, the form is changing quite quickly. But hold on to the content. What is it you really want to say? A big part of a storyteller's job, we have minstrels and we have storytellers. I like to believe I'm a storyteller because certain things that are happening in the world, I don't have to name them, but they are there and they form the canvas of the content. So we are living in a time of a lot of violence, a lot of greed. It's a changing world. It's also always been there. So something occurs in my intuition which says, let's look at transform. Hopefully transform for the better. Hopefully transform for light. What does Osiris do? He brings light into your heart, so he's loved. There are people who are dictators who just want to oppress the spirit of freedom. So all that stuff of the news is buzzing, but I don't want to draw attention to that. I was so moved by what Siddharth was also saying. The story, how do you frame that narrative? Is it about child rape? Or is it about abuse, but in life, something that brings hope? Terrible things happen to us. Terrible things happen to us. But we have to pick ourselves up from the trenches and look towards the sun. So stick to what your content is in spite of the changing platforms. Yeah? That's
okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Ma'am, can you tell us how you bring in characters and change from one character to another? Like you just said, you are in a village. You are you're there in 10 places. You're well aware of what's happening around you, and you're in that moment very dynamic as well. So with the characters, how do you adapt? If you could just, as a follow-up question.
Okay. I really believe, I was again very, very fortunate, and it's about giving things time and listening. I was mentored or trained by Samrat Purnadas Baul of Bengal. I worked with Gujarati storytellers. I worked with Rajasthani storytellers. When you really go to the roots, people, you understand how to sit. By that I mean, he always used to, Samrat Purnadas would say, आप सिर्फ कान से सुन रहे हैं या आपके दिल से? I said, I'm hearing you. Listen. Very big difference between hearing and listening. So the ability to listen is about perception, Shravana, Manana, Nidhyasana. So you have to reflect. As you're listening to a story, the characters start visualizing and taking shape and becoming alive. Then you are placing, it's like a screenplay you're creating. Then you're starting to see this, in the folk story, it may have been a very different kind of a woman. But for me, she appears as somebody over 3 stages of the Ramayana story. She's really trying to bring this chap from being an idiot into a cultured existence, She wants to share the beauty of culture. So you really enter that space of a character. And when somebody wants to show you something and you're saying, no, I've got something else to do, try to bring in something from your own life. I always used to do an exercise with my students. They'd say, how do you imagine character? So what happens, so I'd do an exercise, I'd say, suppose how do we imagine a king has lost his kingdom? We are a democracy. So I say, okay, what happens when you lose your phone? You've lost your whole life, isn't it? All the names, addresses, bank, everything. Your phone is your life now. So imagine that sense of loss in your immediate context, and then you enter another space. Yeah?
Okay, I think we'll take that one last question and then we'll stop. Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
So my question was, if you ever find the audience's attention span fading a little bit, do you have any tricks to pull them back into the story?
I think when I was younger, I was much, into everybody's got to be listening together. But listening is a democracy. Each person is taking in at their point of interest what they were. If you go to a Kutu, and that was how I actually started. I was driving in midnight somewhere. Those days I was trying to do a feature on something in Karnataka. So there was Kutu, and all the villagers had come. This was gone, now it's 30 years ago. Those days they used to attend Kutus. So there were just people, all the farmers, the peasants, after the day's work at night, some of them are coming, they just sleep there, women are suckling babies, and some of them doze off. And sometimes the storyteller, he will clash his cymbals, he'll wake them up at an important moment. But otherwise, he used to let them sleep, take it in, whichever way. And you have to be democratic about this. Because I'm telling you, each one of you, with those stories I've shared with you, you would have imagined the people very differently. It's your own cinema playing at your own chosen speed. And you will take from it what you want to identify. And that's the great democracy of storytelling. Yeah? So there's no trick. Be true to yourself. Be humble to people. It's a gift. And you're sharing it. There's no trick. The moment there are gimmicks, I think you lose it. That's my humble opinion. Okay? Thank you very much. Really, thank you so much.
Thank you, Vayu. That was really a fascinating, wonderful session where you not only entertained us with the story, but also shared your insights into the process of developing stories and how, we can, I think each one of us has a story inside us. So I think that was really a great takeaway from this. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was wonderful having you.
And
Thank you for
to
being.
HLF as well for having us. Your hospitality has been tremendous. Both my husband Chris, the man who gave Ramayana to me in a different perspective, he gave it a Western finish as well. So we thank you very much.
You're welcome. The pleasure was all ours. And thank you for being a wonderful audience.